Okay, if somatic mysticism is so concrete, let's explore why or if it then can be useful. Because my dream is, and my impression, that we somehow do not have to decide between something practical and useful and something enlightening, uplifting at least, healing at least. And I do believe that somatic mysticism as a framework for navigating experience is super helpful regarding mainly two aspects. And the first aspect is the main source of somatic mystical breakthroughs or big leaps into other breakthroughs into higher levels, deeper levels of incarnation and orientation and autonomy and inner freedom and bliss. The main breakthroughs, at least in my case, come from crisis. They come from disturbance. They come from being annoyed and being hindered by the outer world, being hindered of something that I would have loved to do, for example, meditating. But it didn't work because today was a day of crisis with somebody else, something around me, something that frightens me, a lot of stuff that makes me either afraid or helpless. And this might be a different signature of challenge or challenging frequencies or feelings for other people. Yet I think that fear and helplessness are two main hitting points where we end up to have to find out a way how to get out of these traps, because otherwise they can keep us in a prison as long as we live. I don't want to feel helpless, so I don't touch this or that topic or challenge or conflict. I don't want to be afraid, so I don't do this or that step into a bigger leap. So basically these are signals of prison. And if I develop a spiritual discipline that first of all does not exclude the disturbance, but needs it as the most essential fuel for the whole thing, I do not have to decide between having an everyday routine, having a family, having a job, having stress, and my spiritual development. And quite the opposite. I need stress. I need friction. And it comes down to I need suffering. Not as I need it. In fact, nobody needs suffering. However, that's an empty sentence because it will end up as everybody of us will encounter their own layers of suffering. I mean, we don't need that. And still, it's not useful to know that we do not need to suffer because we will suffer eventually anyway until we dissolve those sources of suffering or patterns of suffering in our nervous system, which is exactly the description of somatic mystical development or spiritual development. But in what I'm talking about, because I'm sitting in this kind of framework or matrix in myself, is just calling this somatic mystical. Also because it's less used and maybe less often misunderstood until now than the word spiritual. And me not having to decide between a stressful, very imperfect life and a spiritual development means on a global level we can afford spiritual development even today. And I'm saying that because I'm deeply aware of this incredibly challenging and challenged era right now that in this way has not been present to mankind until now. So this is a era on many levels, but let's just say the countdown around climate change before it's irreversible. There is something of, okay, this didn't happen before. So I feel that this era is incredibly potent into every direction. And using exactly this incredibly challenging, frightening global state that can put all of us into helplessness within seconds, the moment we really face the current state of the planet. And then using that, instead of meditating on that, using that is something that I think is super modern. This is the most radical tantra that I can think of. It's not merging with somebody, it's not merging with something, it's merging with a global wave that hits me with overwhelm. So that is the first factor or aspect why I think that somatic mysticism can be useful today and can be interesting today. And the second aspect is something that I will talk about in the next video.